broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
Hi, this is Jessica Ortner from thetappingsolution.com, and I am thrilled to be on Extreme Health Radio with Justin and Kate. Tune in. It's going to be an awesome show.
With all the advances in medical technology today, the key to longevity may be as simple as vitamin C. Discover the power of lipospheric vitamin C at extremehealthradio.com/vitamin C. Okay, it's been about, how long has it been since we've done a show? A couple weeks?
Well, yeah, probably about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
It seems weird to be back.
It feels very weird. I don't even know how to work this sound machine here.
I can't hear myself out of my own ears, so hopefully everybody else can hear me.
I guess the people in the chat room can find out, right?
Yeah. If anyone in there in the chat can hear me, please let me know.
Please let us know. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is episode 289 of Extreme Health Radio. We really appreciate it. For reference, today is Wednesday, July 30th. All right,
got it.
2014. And like I said, this is episode 289. And we have an in-studio guest, Amy Schuber, in today.
Woohoo! Hi.
We're really excited about this. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll introduce her in just a moment. If you guys would like to follow our show on Facebook, you can do that. Just hit the little like button on our website for Facebook, and you can keep up to date with all of our shows. Our past shows, archive shows, all that good stuff is on Facebook. And if you guys would like to support our work, a great way to do that is if you go to extremehealthradio.com/Amazon. Anytime you make a purchase on Amazon, if you go through our link, that really supports us a lot. So we really appreciate that. And we broadcast 4 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday live at 9 a.m. Pacific. But this week we have a little issue with our Friday show, right,
It's
Kate?
my fault.
Kate had a little mix-up.
Being on vacation schedule, it's like I knew we had a free-for-all, but somehow I just booked clients all the day long tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah,
So,
that's okay.
to make up for being gone. So unfortunately, yes, we will have a pre-recorded Friday
We'll have a
show.
pre-recorded show on Friday.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. That'll be
Sorry,
fun.
guys.
No, so most weeks it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, and you can go to extremehealthradio.com/live if you'd like to become a part of the chat room and community and make some good friends. And so that's always a fun thing to do. And today is going to be a lot of fun. We have Amy Schuber on the show.
Woohoo.
Drove all the way 40 minutes this morning. And she is a strategic success life coach for life and business. And so this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about her work, her career, people she's worked with, and all kinds of really interesting things about how to improve our lives and through success and business and all kinds of stuff. So thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so cool. So you made the 40-minute journey. Was that about right? Was there a lot of traffic?
No traffic.
Really?
Not so bad.
Wow, that's
Driving
good.
in Southern California can be beautiful if you let it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
That is true. Except when you're coming home from a 10-hour trip to Lake Tahoe and you're
LA.
stuck in LA.
Yep, through LA.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I didn't have to drive on Sunset Boulevard this morning, so I'm good with that.
Oh, that's good.
You know,
That's
that
good.
big sinkhole flooding disaster
What's
from
going on
yesterday.
there?
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, last night a water main broke, flooded UCLA campus and
really?
the big sinkhole on Sunset Boulevard. So Sunset Boulevard is closed,
Oh,
which
my
is a
goodness.
huge thoroughway for LA traffic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Poly
goodness.
Pavilion is underwater. It's a big deal.
We didn't. How have we not heard about it?
Like we were talking about before the show, we don't leave our town very much. It's crazy.
We don't get out.
Not only do we not leave the town, we don't know what's going on in the world at all. This is only an
which is
hour away from
okay.
us.
It's okay not to see the news and all that, but
Yeah.
you know.
Amy's like, have you ever heard of something called 9/11?
Never heard of it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's all. So that was all as a result of this flooding recently that we've had.
Just yesterday, the pipe apparently broke. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I
Do
didn't
you-
have to do that drive.
That's-
so,
oh,
no big deal.
that's a good
Easy
thing.
breezy for me to
Yeah.
drive down here on a beautiful, sunny, gorgeous day.
I know, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you listen to stuff while you drive? You listen to music, or what kind of things do you listen to?
I listen listen to all kinds of things. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes I listen to podcasts and radio shows like this. Sometimes I listen to, I like to listen to KCRW.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I love the morning music on
Do you
KCRW.
do a lot of commuting yourself? Or
I don't actually. Yeah. I feel really grateful that I can work out of my home office, do most of my coaching over the phone. But of course, like we were talking about earlier, I venture off. I like to have days like this in studio, in house with you guys. This is awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I venture out a lot. So I do, but mostly I'm not a daily commuter.
How long has it been since you had a job where you went to the office?
Well, like officially, like that, in that sense, it's been about 8 years.
Wow.
But I've done things in the past, maybe 2 years, that brought me to a location.
Okay.
That I had to be somewhere like a couple days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a completely different world. Once you get out of it, it's very strange, isn't it? Going back.
Well, it's strange, but there's such a freedom in it of having your own schedule and not being a slave to the drive and a slave to your car. I saw the traffic was going the opposite way for me this morning. So I looked over and it made me kind of cringe because I thought, oh, yuck. I was flowing with the traffic because I was going against it. But yeah, it makes me have memories of doing planes, trains, and automobiles. Yeah. When I lived in the Bay Area, there was a time when I drove to the BART station, took the bus, walked a couple blocks, and it was planes, trains, and automobiles.
Wow. Just to get to work.
Yeah. No plane, but yeah, I don't miss those days at all.
So how did we all get connected? I need to remember this.
I was going to say, by the way, everyone in the chat room says Amy's just a whisper, so maybe you could up her a little bit.
Okay.
I cannot hardly hear her.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, the reason Amy's sitting here today is because of kind of a random, well, not random, nothing's random anymore, but a connection through the Empowered Women's channel, which Amy is also going to be working on with us.
Yeah,
and, super excited to have you contribute to that. But yeah, I mean, just through people, it's funny how obviously you meet one person and it just rabbit trails down to all these amazing people that I think 10 years from now, I'm not even going to believe who and how I met everybody in my life. And when I met you and we had a glass of wine a couple months ago or whatever it was, I just really connected and I thought, wow, I walked away from you just completely inspired and feeling full. And I thought, this is a girl we got to get on the Empowered Women's and, our Extreme Health Radio to. And
when you came home, you were I was lit up. She told me all about you. She was all excited. It was super cool.
Yeah. So
it's fun and it's rare when you meet people, when you have a connection like that. When, you were referred to me by someone I interviewed, she said, you have to talk to Kate. And instantly I was like, of course. Because whenever I have that intuition of like a real strong yes, I just follow it. Yeah. And then when we met, it was the same. It was like, of course, this is going to be fun.
Yes, she had said that I met her through another friend. I mean, it was like a friend of a friend kind of thing. And same thing. She was like, you have to meet Amy. And the minute we met, I thought you have a gift to share with the world. So.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
And so let's talk about, you have your own podcast, which is super exciting.
I do. I have a podcast called Inspired Conversations. It's launching soon, hopefully next month. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's because I have a passion and I love talking to people. Part of me is a seeker and I love to learn and I love to try new things and I love to just share what I learn, even if it has something to do with what I do for a living or nothing to do with it.
Have you always been like that?
I've always been like that, but I've been like it more maybe in the past 15 years realizing this.
Yeah.
Part of it's because I've been different. My mom likes to say I drink the Kool-Aid, which I think is a negative thing to say, but I'm a Kool-Aid drinker in the sense of if someone says, try this, it'll help you. Okay, I'll try it, you know? And if I have a strong yes, I'll just try it. There's no no's. I don't have skepticism. I don't doubt things. I just try. Not in a naive way, in a wholehearted body. If someone says try something and my body's I have no doubts. So part of me is a seeker and that serves me on a lot of levels because I try things, and it goes back to my podcast because I love to talk to people, anybody that can interest you or inspire you, whether it's for health or for, body wellness, for work, business, resources, anything like that.
It's all tied together, like we were saying before. It's all, people try to separate these things out, but we're learning, Kate, you and I were just talking the other day, how everything bleeds together with the site business and success, motivation, inspiration, healthy living. It all sort of bleeds together.
Yeah.
It's pretty, So you have this podcast, and you said you have a lot of shows that are ready to be released, right?
Yeah, I do.
That is so cool.
I'm excited. I'm very excited about it because I feel like even though it's like a passion project for me, it's not my business, but it really, it goes along with my business very well. It's a great platform. It feels like something really good and exciting. And the people who are coming forward and saying yes, it's funny because I don't know how popular some of the people are. And then I'll talk about it with like friends or somebody who knows them and like, how'd you get that person? Or just ask,
Yeah.
But it's been really fun. But it's one of my areas of genius, because I'm a seeker and I like to share knowledge. I like to have conversations. I like to be in conversations, and I like to share those conversations and share. One of the other things about me is I like to call myself a curator. Like I'm a curator of my life. I'm a curator of other people's lives because I can give them information, and I'm doing that through these conversations, just like you guys are with this show and everything you're doing.
Yeah. It's you just kind of have really interesting people to talk to, and you get paid for it. It's just really amazing.
Yeah, and it's fun. It doesn't feel like any work.
No.
If anyone told me I could wake up, have a conversation, and it's going to expand my life and expand people around me, I wouldn't have known that was a part of my plan.
Yeah, it's amazing. We talk about this often. It's just, it continually blows me away how in 2014, this type of thing is possible for people. People can do this, and people can, work from home and have something that actually changes the world. And also, it's one thing to work from home and have something that changes the world, but if you're poor, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
But so you can also get paid for doing work you love, but then also having that work be something that changes the world. And I'm sure you coach a lot of people with business, right? And and them pursuing these types of things as well.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all the same thing. It's funny, people come forward for business coaching. I used to run a group for entrepreneurial women, and there's stuff that would stop them in business was the stuff stopping them in their life, and you wouldn't think it was related. It might be a relationship situation, but they came to talk about business. And so then when you start exploring a little bit more, you're like, oh, well, this area of your other part of your life is stalled. So that's why stuff over here in your business is not moving forward.
So the people that would come in, they wouldn't see that connection?
No. We don't always see it for ourselves,
I guess that's true, isn't it? I guess that's the same reason why, we have these awesome monuments, the Grand Canyon right in our backyard. We don't go see it. The same thing happens in our life, I guess, right? We have these things and we don't see that there's some connector between two different parts of our life.
Yeah, well, the connector is you.
Yeah.
Your heart, your soul, your intentions. And if you're not aware of what you're putting out in the world or how you're serving yourself, it's going to bleed into all areas of your life. Business, relationships, family.
So how often do you see people that have a connection like that? Like, let's say something in their life is going bad. Maybe a relationship they're in, like a romantic relationship, or maybe it's just a relationship they have with their parents or, just family like that. Is it quite often that people have a relationship that's bad and also feeling stuck in their business?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of things that like kind of flow within you as you're feeling stuck. And as you're stuck in a relationship, a lot of it has to do with your consciousness, aware of where you are with what you're allowing yourself to have, whether it's in your life, in your business. At the end of the day, what I come to find is it comes down to this. Do you love yourself enough to have what you really, really want in this world and what you really desire? Some of us don't feel worthy of having that like dream job or that dream relationship, whatever the dream is.
Whatever it is.
Everybody, it's defined differently per person. But, sometimes we hold ourselves back by settling with the wrong guy or the wrong girl or partner because we don't feel worthy of something better. And it's not that obvious. Speaking from experience, I've been in relationships that weren't that great. And at the time I was just like, well, it's good enough, knowing there might be something better, but not doing anything about it, right?
Because it's funny with that, you always sort of weigh all the options, don't you? You think, okay, well, this guy I'm with, he's it's not really exactly what I want. It's not great, but at least he doesn't do these things and do this kind of thing. And if I switched, it might just be switching one set of problems for another, or one set of
quirks or personality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we do that instead of just going for the best, right?
Yeah. And part of that is really knowing what you desire. A lot of us walk through the world and don't even know, you know. I was just recently writing my bio and my story, and some of this was coming up. I feel like, you know, for a time I just did everything I was supposed to do. You know, you go to school, you go to college, you go away. I got a job, get a job. That was like in my family, even though I come from a family of entrepreneurs, that was just the language, get a job, you know, cause that was success. And so it was like, ooh, she got a corporate job, which was in my family great because a corporation can take care of you, you know? Yeah. But once I did all that, I kind of woke up and thought, okay, I've done all this stuff, but I'm not fulfilled. I'm not happy. I'm doing the grind. I was living in San Francisco with my girlfriends right after college. It was awesome. I look back, it was an awesome experience. I worked for some amazing companies, and, you know, I am who I am because of my experiences. But there was a time when I woke up and thought, this is soul crushing. Really? I hate it. I hate what I'm doing. And I had changed jobs a few times, but I didn't know what I wanted. And I don't think I went to college knowing what I wanted. And I didn't graduate knowing what I wanted. So I just sort of did what I thought I was supposed to do. Wow. And I think a lot of people right now are waking up to a bigger idea for their life.
It's so different. We were talking the other day about how funny it was in school where they'd have this career day. And it's just so amazing that a lot of the careers that are available now weren't even in existence then, because back then it was, you know, do you want to be a cop or do you want to be a firefighter, an astronaut, you know? And you'd almost be kind of rewarded by people. I remember in high school or junior high, if you were sort of go after these, you know, quote, grandiose positions.
Yeah.
But in today's world, it's a radically different world. There's a lot of jobs that just aren't available.
Yeah.
You know, and so a lot of people are seeking these new things out through some sort of education process that's a little more laser focused. Like you see these colleges like University of Phoenix or these real trade schools where you just learn this one thing. There's a lot more of that going on, it seems like.
Yeah.
You know?
What made you take a risk and kind of, I mean, did you evolve slowly into this, hey, it might not be the life I thought it was going to look like, and I'm not being fulfilled, so therefore I'm going to have to step out and do something to get that? Or
well, I think I was what happened was I left a job in San Francisco, a really great company, to do like the whole .com thing back in 2095 when that was really like .com, you know. Now it's Startups Nation and everyone knows what that is, but it was a really different big deal. Yeah. Everybody left this company to go do that because everyone was doing that. And so I did, and then I got that company ran out of money and literally went to work one day and they're like, okay, we can't pay you and you don't have jobs. And we all were like, oh, but it was kind of cool because it was part of the experience of what was going on. And from there, I kind of started scrambling. Like, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go from here? And I got this temp job. And at the time, the job market wasn't that great in San Francisco. So it was like, you better take what you can get. And so for a while I was temping until they forced me to I was contracting, and they said, well, you either decide you're on board or you're out as a contractor. Said this? Yeah. And I felt forced to take the job, and I took it knowing it wasn't the job I wanted to. Like at the time I said to them, I want to keep looking because I know this job isn't going to serve my heart. And they spoke my language, but they wanted me to just take the job and fill the position and be done with it. So I took it because that was the best opportunity at the time, and I was still seeking, and I didn't really know what I was seeking out, you know. So that led me to doing more seeking. So I took that job, but I didn't love it, and I worked there for a few years, and then it just got so I was so aware that it wasn't the right fit for me with, you know, doing a lot of work and being kind of passed over for things and opportunities that the universe made it very obvious to me that it wasn't for you. You need to do something else. But I wasn't taking any risks, you know. Yeah. But then there got to a point I took a career counseling class, a career enlightenment class, and at the end of that class, the beginning of that class, she said, in 6 weeks, your lives will change. And all of us were like, okay. And on that last night of that class, I quit that job. That day. I quit the job. I literally like skipped to that class downtown. I can see myself skipping to class, so happy. I walked in and I was like, I quit my job today. And this guy was like, no way. I was like, yeah, because that class stirred something up in me. And I started learning more and getting excited about, you know what, there's more to life. I don't have to just accept this. I can go find something else and find what serves my heart. And so I quit my job, and I also decided to leave San Francisco and come back to Southern California. I made all these really big decisions in what seems like a short amount of time. And another girl did the same thing. She came in and quit her big job. And this guy was freaking out in our class. Like, I can't believe everyone's doing all this. But it was just like time, and things showed up for us. And it was because I took the class.
So the class somehow opened your mind, opened your awareness that there's other options.
Yeah.
You didn't have to be bullied into this position.
Yeah. And thinking back, it was intentions. In that class, I set the intentions of, I want to have more, be more, and do more with my life. Wow. And in order to do that, you have to take some risks. And quitting my job and saying I was moving out of the city was a big deal. And everybody thought I was doing it out of the blue, but it really wasn't out of the blue.
It was a long time coming.
It was a long time coming.
Yeah, 6 months in the making.
Yeah. And I vividly have a memory of sitting in the alley talking to my life coach at the time, crying my eyes out, like on a break. My lunch break was my coaching call. You know, I went out of the office, sat on the sidewalk, and I was bawling to her. I remember, I can see the alley. And she was saying, you know, you've got to take some risks. And I was like, I don't know what they are. But when you have intentions of making a change or doing something that serves you on another level, you're more apt to take those risks because they feel better. They feel okay because you feel like, okay, I'm going to be okay. And you hear those stories all the time, like artists or actors. Unfortunately, you don't hear them so much on other people because you just hear those people just going for it. Yeah. You know, because they're in the media. But people are doing it all the time, going after what their dreams are. It's okay. Go ahead.
Well, in your opinion, like the people you've worked with, what keeps people from being a risk taker?
I was just going to go there.
Were you?
A lot of people in today's
culture. So many people want to do that, but something is just holding them back. What sets the people apart? The ones that actually leap off the cliff and grow their wings on the way down, and then the ones that stay shivering in the cold, afraid to make that choice. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different answers to that question. There's some of it's just personality. Some people are just bigger risk takers. Some people do know what they want, and it's easy for them to just go do it. Other people are maybe it's timing, you know, maybe they have a family and they've got to be a provider, and they can't take that bigger risk because there's too many people involved. And some people take the risk when there are people involved, you know. There's a lot of different things. Some people don't feel worth it. You know, you might not see that on the outset, but deep down inside, they might not feel worth it, that they can go take a risk. And
so it's like a psychological thing
it
too
can
sometimes.
Be. Yeah. I think there's a lot of different factors. And if you're ready, are you ready to leap? Do you know what you're leaping towards? You know?
How important do you think it is for someone career-wise to have the next step planned before they leap? I mean, is that always a good step?
Big deal.
Or some people just fly off and just figure it out? I mean, do you think there's a better way to feel about taking a risk like that?
I think it's easier to take risks when you know who you are and you know what you want for your life. So it might not be, I'm going to be on this radio show and have this impact, and that's like in my idea of what I want to do, right? It might be that I want to influence people and make a difference in the world. And I do it every day by showing up at my job in the best way I can.
Right.
And I know I'm an artist, and I know that I'm going to keep painting and doing this and serving in that way. And then your art might take off. Right.
Right.
So it goes back to knowing who you are, what you want to create for your life, wherever you are in the moment. And I think the risks are easier to take because the opportunities come forward for you.
If you know who you are and what you want to do.
If you know who you are and what you want to do.
And what your purpose is.
And what your purpose is.
Does that go along with living in your genius like you mentioned earlier? And
sometimes
what that
it does
is?
And sometimes it doesn't.
Can you explain that to me? The genius?
Yeah. So what are you really, really, really good at? What do you love doing? Where do you love to be in this space? You know, some people are really great cooks. They can get in the kitchen and take anything out of the cupboard and make a great meal without a recipe, and they could recreate it or not, right? And some people can't do that. Some people can't boil water. you know? And then,
or keep a plant alive.
or keep a plant alive. Some people have a green thumb and their genius is being in the garden. You know, that's a conversation my mom and I have because I've planted a garden recently and it's thriving. And everyone in my family knows my mom has a black thumb. We're like, why? You just water it. You know, I don't understand that. The seeds grow. But, you know, some people just don't have a knack for it. And, you know, for me, one of the things I've come to learn that I really love to do is interview and talk to people, which seems right because I love to talk to people because that's what I do as a coach. I'm talking to people. I'm getting to know people. And then in a situation where you get to record it and share it, I just lose myself in that. I could talk to people for hours. The conversations always go really fast.
That's how we are.
It's easy. You know, I don't have to plan it. I can jump on and not have a plan and be okay with it on the fly if that's how it has to work. So I think you find your genius when you lose yourself in your work or your play. It doesn't always have to be work, you know, and you can have those ideas and those genius moments when you're working, when you're playing. It can be everywhere in your life. And sometimes it's not something you might identify as that, you know. I interviewed a gal who's a writer and I said, oh, that must be fun for you because you're a writer. And she did not identify herself as a writer.
Oh, really?
You know?
Oh, wow.
But I'm like, wait, that's what you're so good at.
Yeah.
That's what, you know, you do so well. So sometimes we don't even identify what we're genius at because we're disconnected from ourselves in that way.
I think reconnecting with ourselves is the key because if you're not connected, you don't know what your real talents are. You might be doing some sort of job that maybe you're good at, but you're not connected. If you really were to ask yourself, okay, do I see myself doing this in 5 years? Do I see myself really doing whatever I'm trying to pursue right now? Is this my life's purpose? Even though I might be good at it, those people aren't connected with themselves because they would answer no, which is kind of a weird thing.
Yeah. And the thing about life purpose, that can be a really big statement. You know, what's your purpose? It can be really daunting to people, but it can be really easy. Your purpose could be being the best that you can be in every moment, you know, showing up in service, being a loving presence wherever you go. So that means you have to be nice to everybody you see. If that's your purpose, to be loving, to be nice to the gas station attendant, to the people who might be in your way on the freeway, everywhere you go, that could be your purpose. It's not that you have to go out and make this big, huge impact with a business or a job. And, you know, if that's not the thing, it's just being good every day. That could be it for you, and serving yourself. Because when you serve yourself and you serve that purpose that you come to find suits you, it changes everything in your life.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now, but we're going to come back, and I'm interested in talking a little bit about how people, sometimes it takes a little bit of life experience to know what you don't want before you know what you do want. And sometimes finding what you do want seems like part of that process is knowing, okay, here's 20 things I don't want. So we'll talk about that a little bit after the break. We're with Amy Schuber. Her website is amyschuber.com, and we're going to be right back right after this break. Are you living in the 21st century taking 19th century supplements? Vitamin C pills and powders are often destroyed in the digestive system and passed as waste, never reaching your depleted cells. Lipospheric vitamin C uses a patented encapsulation technology to deliver more without the stomach distress caused by pills and powders. Within minutes, liposomes filled with vitamin C are transported directly into your cells without binders, fillers, sugar, or GMOs. With all the modern advances of medicine and technology, are you throwing away money every morning on inefficient supplements? For under $1 a day, you could experience the power of lipospheric vitamin C. For a real eye-opener, visit extremehealthradio.com/vitamin C. I wanted to tell you about this really powerful and unique product called the Q Laser. Did you know there's over 2,500 peer-reviewed clinical research studies showing the benefits of low-level laser therapy on the body? We had Dr. Larry Lytle on episode 165 talking all about it. Dr. Lytle, what is the Q Laser?
The Q Laser is a light-delivering device, handheld, rechargeable, that is for lay people and professionals, that works at the cell level of the body to restore energy. Since the body is all composed of cells and the cells are composed of atoms, it's good for any and everything in the body. It is especially beneficial for injuries. It will reduce swelling and inflammation before your eyes. Literally, you can have a sprained ankle and fly the laser, and within 30 minutes you can see that the swelling in the ankle has been reduced. Since all disease is inflammatory, you can assume that same process is working if you have some type of intestinal problem. We have pictures of using a heat instrument to diagnose the intestinal inflammation. We can show that intestinal inflammation is pretty much gone within 3 minutes using the Q1000 laser. It's the number one tool in your medicine cabinet. I have a saying, never leave home without your laser. I have had 3 serious burns, and each time I had my laser with me, I applied the laser immediately after I had the burn. I never even blistered.
Kate and I don't want to be without ours. We've worked out a special deal with Dr. Lytle for all of our listeners. If you'd like to learn more about how the Q laser can dramatically improve your health, go to extremehealthradio.com/laser.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
I know. Everybody, I used to do that too.
Well, we are trying. It's a work in progress here with this whole soundboard here. I'm looking at all these buttons and levers, and I kind of have an idea of what's going on, but I really don't know what I'm doing here. It's kind of strange. So hopefully everybody in the chat room can hear my levels and everybody else's levels.
I think you need a sound coach.
I do, don't I? Is there such a thing?
I bet there is. Do you know anybody, Amy?
I bet there is.
We can find one.
I bet we could. That's a good idea. But we have some consistency here.
Right.
Or maybe like a producer, an actual real live producer.
Oh,
that would be kind of cool.
I like where you're going with that.
Yeah, have a third person in here.
That would be really
adjusting
cool.
all the knobs. Well, I thank everybody for joining us. It's really great to be here with Amy Schuber. This is episode 289. We broadcast live 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. So I want to thank all you guys for joining us in the chat room. And if you guys have any questions about the Live-On Labs or the laser, oh my goodness, we just love both of those products. We get questions all the time about the laser. And the Live-On Labs is really an exciting vitamin C product, isn't it? You like it?
I love it.
Yeah, it's really
That's
good.
the stuff that that same exact company was the one that gave me my lipospheric after my root canal tooth was extracted.
Oh, with Dr. Nunley.
With Dr. Nunley in March. And because they couldn't get the IV into my vein, I was so cold that they couldn't give me the intravenous vitamin C. And so they said the next best thing was the lipospheric. And I tell you, I recovered so fast from that operation.
They actually said that the lipospheric was more beneficial than the actual IV,
yeah.
Which is really weird.
Was it stronger or was it just...
It was stronger, more absorbable. But just an incredible product. And we have the glutathione, we have the vitamin C, and we're looking forward to taking it in the winter months too. So in case the little flu bug comes around.
Which it won't. I'm not even going to attract that.
That's true. It will come and we will just tell it to go away.
Yes, we will.
So this is a fun conversation. And I think before the break, I wanted to talk a little bit about, it's interesting how, at least in my life, I found that maybe I'm a late bloomer in finding all of this, at this point in my life. But I tried so many things, and I tried different avenues of making money or starting a business or trying to work for myself, because I looked at, for me, the whole corporate thing it wasn't something that ever attracted me. I did a few corporate jobs, and it wasn't what it was cracked up to be, at least for me. I can see why some people like it, because it's a real adrenaline thing, and you can make really good money and things, but there's a big trade-off. And so for me, I tried lots of different things, and it was more like a trial and error thing, where I would try something, and we were just talking about this the other day. I'm so glad that some of the other things didn't work out. And at the time, it was like, breaking up with a girlfriend or boyfriend, you get really upset and you think, oh, why didn't this work out? And you're fighting so hard for this thing to work. But I'm just so glad, because this is, now I look at what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have a lot of coaching clients that are that way as well, right?
I do. And it's interesting. It's when you finally surrender to that thing that's calling you, even though you might not have known it looked like this specifically, something else was calling you for you to move out of those other jobs and situations. One thing that's really interesting to have when you're just thinking about this, and anyone listening, is just thinking about your intentions for your life. Because you might be in a job that's not perfect for you, or you feel like you might have a greater calling, but it is what it is for you right now. And that's okay. And it's having an intention to maybe change it and letting things that maybe have already changed, because sometimes they change for you. Like when you show up at work and they say, you don't have a job anymore and you don't have a paycheck and good luck. You leave thinking, okay, I wasn't expecting that, but you've got to think fast on your feet and have an intention around what's next, right? Like you said, it is devastating sometimes when you lose a job or you're really pushing for something that you think you want and you think it's your next step, but it clearly isn't. But when you're in it, you don't necessarily see it. And so afterwards you look back and think, oh, thank goodness, you know. I'll tell you, for me personally, I made those big decisions. I moved back to Southern California. I started looking for a job because that started coming up for my family. I was going to take that time to explore. And then it was like, when are you going to get a job? What are you doing? You know, I had savings and I had planned it.
So you could live for a little while.
Yeah. And, get a job creeped back into my world. And so what did I do? I went and got a job as a marketing director at a company, and it was the worst experience ever. My staff didn't like me, and I'm really likable. I'm really good to work with. And they were haters, and it was miserable. I've never worked for a situation like that.
Were you being forced to be someone you weren't, kind of thing too, a little bit?
I think
with the pressure and things,
a little bit, but not really. I just, it was my background. So yeah, can I get this job? Yeah, check. It's on my resume, right? Yeah. Next step, director level. It was great company. It was awful. I say the universe chewed me up and spit me out, because 8 months later I got laid off.
Oh, really?
and it was just so funny. And so I was like, okay, I hear you. So I went exploring after that, and I took some time. And when I did that, it led me to everything I'm doing now. When I really took the time to do some exploring. I mean, I took a class at the Interior Design Institute because I thought, well, I'm creative. Maybe I can go become a designer. Yeah. So I took an 8-week class, got a certificate. It was super fun and great. I took a business course. I took an entrepreneurial workshop.
So you did the same kind of thing.
Yeah. And
tried lots of things.
Yeah. And that workshop led me to running the workshop in Orange County, which led me to coaching and everything I'm doing now. So that one, yes. And I had to drive to LA for it. So I went out of, the Orange County zone. Yeah. I had to do some things that seekers do. You leave your comfort zone maybe. And that led me to stuff that I would have never imagined when I signed up for that class.
At that point, did your family kind of come around you and embrace you a bit in that dream? Or were they still like, what are you going to do? Go get another job? Or?
The get a job is always a kind of a flowing conversation through my family, just because it's the consciousness, and it's where they come from. But no, they're completely supportive and completely embrace me.
Now.
And especially then they did too, because they saw me doing things, and I think it's just out of fear, that do what you've always done, be who you always have been, is just out of fear. They don't know who you're going to be. And we have that same fear. If I do these things and take these risks, who am I going to be? Well, that's the point. You don't know. And it's okay not to know. Not knowing is okay. And we have to be comfortable with that. And when you're comfortable not knowing, you're more likely probably to take more risks. It's being comfortable knowing that, hey, if I try this and if it doesn't work out and I fail, well, I learned something and it'll probably take me in another direction that I can't even anticipate right now.
Yeah. And that's the thing with a lot of the past, a lot of the people that coming out of that generation where you would work for a company your whole life, and people that want to do something different. It's not really, it's foreign to them, because that's, today, in today's culture, people are able to pursue their dreams and figure out, even though this economy is so crazy and it costs so much to live and all this kind of thing, people can still choose the path they want to go. And Kate and I were just talking about this the other day. I'm so glad that we don't live in the 1800s, because we're basically living on the back of all those people, all the people that built railroads, that built all the infrastructure, the sewage systems, all of this stuff was built back then when people had no option. It was like if they had that particular job, they were just happy to work. And today, and so I think that kind of mindset and consciousness seems to, it sort of just slowly ebbs out of the culture, doesn't it? Because today more and more people are waking up and saying, hey, this isn't what I want to do. I want to do something different.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it. The consciousness is changing on the planet. And you guys probably talk about that a lot with some of the healing modalities and things that are happening. But people are waking up. You know, people are really waking up to who they really are, you know? And I think we get up and go on such a level that we can easily be unconscious in our lives, easily. Mm-hmm. The way we eat, the way we drink, the way we treat our bodies, the way we treat each other.
Or even think.
Yeah, the way we think. Sometimes we're not even thinking for ourselves most of the time, you know? And when you start waking up like, ooh, something is calling me. Ooh, I think I want to do this. What is that idea? Where does it come from? We all have something in us that wants to be born in this lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. And some of us are aware of it. Some of us are doing it. Some of us are being it. And some of us won't, you know, because we're not going to let it free, set it free. We're not going to give ourselves that opportunity. But if you start waking up and you start feeling a calling, I'm not saying go do something dramatic, but take a little turn towards it. Take a class, read a book, listen to something, you know, do something about it and see where that takes you and surrender to it. I think one of the biggest things of resistance can be that surrender, you know. We want to make it be and look and have it a certain way, you know, and sometimes it's not going to turn out that way at all.
So we internally have a resistance to things that we want to pursue, maybe.
Some people do, yeah.
Well,
you know?
That's weird.
What would you say to the person who feels like I know myself, I'm probably one of these people who feels like a tweak in consciousness and being raised to another level, and you have this clarity and you know what it is and you're living your purpose, but other people that are close to you feel really threatened by that?
Like your dream threatens other people, maybe.
Yeah, like they're used to, well, you know, that old saying, like people like who you are when they first meet you or how they've always known you. They're threatened by you changing because people do sense a lot of change in you. That's scary to people, but how do you, as the coach in you, what would you say to someone like me and other people that are in the situation of like, you know where you're going and you're excited about it, but you have these people going, that doesn't seem like the old you. I'm not comfortable with you going there. You have to stand strong in who you are and what you're pursuing because they can't tell you who you are. They're uncomfortable in the not knowing who you're going to be because they don't. When you said that earlier, I'm like, oh, you're like tugged at my heart. You know, it's like, you're right. When you don't know who, like I know who I'm going to be, and it's full of life and it's full of excitement for the first time in this way that I know it's a good thing. And I think other people aren't comfortable with that. And it's fear. They fear they won't have a connection with you as the person you are and the changes you're making because maybe they don't identify with them. And people want to stay mediocre. People want to stay where they are. And if you're doing something that's extraordinary, there's bound to be people that are going to want to pull you down because they don't want to be extraordinary. They want to be mediocre because it's easier. It is. It's easier not to wake up. It's funny. It's funny you say this today. On Sunday, I go to Agape, the spiritual center in LA, and that was the topic that Reverend Michael, there's going to be haters. I mean, he was calling them haters. And so, you know, the more you find your truth, there are people that are going to be pulling you down. I mean, look at the media. Look at some of these people who are doing amazing things in the world, but there's always some sort of negative story. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. It's like, is it being splashed out there to pull people down? I mean, it's happening all the time, you know? Yeah. 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 So staying strong in who you are and being rooted and being connected to yourself to know what your purpose is. Because you would have to be really strong in that way because the people that are influencing you are usually people that are perceived to be authority figures, you know, either bosses or friends that are older or parents or grandparents or older brothers and sisters, things like that, where these people are, you know, they do have an influence on you. And so being strong in who you are is probably something that has to be worked out, like a discipline, isn't it? Oh, for sure. I mean,
for one, you have to know your intentions, right? What you're working towards and who you're being. And that takes some work, you know? Mm-hmm. Some of it's unraveling who you've been in the past because you have been influenced by things that you're unaware of, but you grow up with the beliefs and the systems just from, because they're there, right? You don't have any, you don't know what's being ingrained into you until you get older and look back and think, oh, I don't believe that at all. But I have that in my system. So some of it is the undoing, right? Yeah. And then it's waking up to ourselves and who we really are. And everyone is unique. Everyone has a different seed in them that wants to blossom, you know?
So you could help people, or you do help people with that undoing process.
Partly.
I imagine that would be really challenging and take perhaps maybe, I don't know, maybe some people can do that really quickly, but it seems like it would take a long time to undo a lot of these subconscious thoughts and belief systems that we get when we're 6 and 5 and we don't even know.
There's a lot of different modalities that help with all those different things. But for me as a coach, I like to look forward, you know, like what do you want? What do you desire? And let's move forward from here. One of the hardest questions for people to answer sometimes is, what do you really want for your life? What do you desire? You know, what is your vision for your life?
Because they just never took time to think about it.
You know, some people might say they want to have a family or they want a career in such and such, but do we talk about the impact that we're having in those areas? The bigger imprint we have on people? You know, I want to cause happiness everywhere I go. Okay, so what does that look like? That means smiling in traffic. That means being nice at the grocery store. You know, it's like wherever we are, there we are. And we have to take ourselves with us. So you have to know what you're all about. And a lot of us don't know who we are. And I go through this too. Like, it's taken me a lot to like know what my intentions are, know what I want to impact. And it seems big to me, you know, to say I'm going to have a podcast that's going to influence millions of people, or, you know, have a coaching program that's going to help women become leaders of their own lives. And it's going to reach millions of people. I contract with that. And it took me a really long time to get there. But when you start putting things into place and then thinking, wow, this is really what I'm up to, and you just let it out there and surrender to it, all the ways of making that happen come forward to you. Yeah,
things start happening. It's like a domino effect, and like the roads sort of pave for you, isn't it?
Yeah. You guys probably experienced that with this radio show. I mean, are you kidding?
Gosh. Yeah, with what we're doing, everything we were doing before. Kate tried a million different things, too, just because she wanted to get out of, you know, doing hair. And
I baked pies in our kitchen for for a summer, and I just about burn up in there.
50 orders for that.
Yes, in one little oven. This is not where it's at.
Interior design, remember?
Interior design as well, yeah.
Lots of different things. And it wasn't until we started doing this that everything just sort of happened so easily.
Yeah.
You know, everything just sort of rolled itself out. And
I feel like it was like that line in Louise Hay's book. I'm going to, you know, butcher it a little bit. In the You Can Heal Your Life book, she says, you know, everything shows up at the exact time, no sooner, the exact time that you need it. And how true is that? We talk about this all the time, Jay, where you and I are like, you know, like an example is my root canal tooth. I had never heard anything about your root canal possibly affecting your health in an ill way. And once I was like, it became exposed to me and I learned about it, I'm going to go get that tooth out. The minute I get that tooth pulled, I had so many of my health problems just go away. But it wasn't until the exact moment I needed to know that I was able to have it exposed to me and then reacted or took a leap of faith. And just everything in our life, especially with Extreme Health Radio, has been laid out in the exact time, no sooner, no later than it was supposed to.
Yeah. And I think anyone, if they start reflecting on things, they would recognize that.
I think so.
A lot of those jobs, like you were saying, like maybe they're dead end jobs, preparation. It's all preparation.
It is, isn't it?
I feel the same way about my experiences in the corporate arena, in startup nation, in getting laid off a couple of times. You know, like I look back and think, well, those are my stories. That's my preparation for what I'm doing now. It all led me to different choices that has led me here, which I'm so happy for. But at the time, it felt I'm miserable. When I was sitting on the curb crying to my life coach in the alley of, you know, on my lunch break, I couldn't see the way. It was a dead end alley, right? But I would have never thought I'd be where I am. But that's not for me to know, because I think there's a bigger plan for us. And if we can all hear that call, and I don't mean to say it in like a woo-woo way, we all know, you know, if you are up to something. You know if you're hiding something, you know? There's this guy right now riding across America on his cycle and his bicycle. And he has a story. I interviewed him, but his story was, you know, he started cycling, he lost some weight, he was doing it for fun. And then he really loved it. And he had this call to raise money for this organization that he started to stop acute malnutrition in children. And, you know, he had this idea to ride cross country and raise money. And he has a wife and 2 young kids. And so he's like, I'll just ask my wife and she'll say no. And so then we won't have to do it. So I'll just put it out there.
So that he tried or whatever.
So he asked her and she said, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go for it.
Something she probably never would have said.
Yeah. He thought she would squash the idea and then he could move on with his life.
Wow.
And so he's right now he's riding across country with his wife and 2 kids. His wife's driving the RV across country and raising money. So
That's so cool.
I mean, he said yes to his calling and it's changed his life in a way that on so many levels, I mean, it's so interesting. It's Cycle Cause if you want to follow it, if anyone's, listening, but it's amazing because he said yes. And he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. He closed down his business that he'd had for like 13 years, successful business. And when he gets back in, I don't know, 6 months, he's like, I'm not sure. But I was like, you've already answered the call. You'll be taken care of.
Yeah, something will happen.
Yeah.
Cycle Cause, is that the website?
Cycle Cause, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. When we come back from the break, I think we have to take a little break, do we? Yep. Wow. Jeez, we've been chatting for 51 minutes, so it's time for a break. We're 10 minutes over. I want to talk a little bit more about the intention thing because it's there's this really interesting quote that I bring up a lot on the show by Mike Tyson. And he was saying he was just, for those that don't know, this incredible, powerful boxer in the 1980s and 90s, and no one could stand with him. And at one point he said something like, you probably heard the quote, they were asking him, how is he able to knock out guys that are 250 pounds with one punch? And he said to the reporter, that's because I throw every punch with mean intention. So he doesn't waste any punches. Like a lot of boxers just waste punches and jabs and stuff. And everything he did was with mean intention. And so I thought it was interesting when you were talking about intention and trying to figure out the type of intent that you're putting out into the world and seeing how all the different circumstances and situations in your life wrap themselves around that. Like you said, smiling in traffic, or, you know, if your intention is this, then how does that apply to the really mundane things? And so having a life intention, I think is, I don't know, I think it's critical. And I'm sure you do too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And if you put that into practice, it shows up immediately. It could even be, I intend on having a great parking place. I mean, it can be literally anything
little
and
things
everything,
like
little things, but big things too. So you just notice. You can just notice.
This is good stuff. Gosh, time has gone by so fast.
I know.
Oh man. So this is episode 289. We're with Amy Schuber. Amy, AMYSCHUBER, AmySchuber.com. And if I could find the place to find the commercials, we'll be right back right after this break.
If you have any digestive problems whatsoever, I highly recommend getting a Squatty Potty that sits right underneath your toilet. Squatty Potties help give relief from constipation and bloating, hemorrhoids and straining, IBS, pelvic floor, and bladder issues. See, as humans, we are designed to squat when we eliminate, and when we sit on a toilet, that angle kinks and pinches off the puborectalis muscle in your colon, and the Squatty Potty opens the colon to eliminate more quickly and completely. Listen to what Daniel Vitalis has to say about that.
One of the reasons I love to promote the idea of the squat toilet is because, for a couple of reasons. One, there's a ligament that wraps around your colon that prevents you, when you're in the seated position, from being able to have an effective bowel movement. But that ligament's loosed when we're in a full squat. So people are fighting their own body to defecate this way. Now, in the rest of the world, people defecate in the squat. Use a squat toilet. I'm so big on this. I've got a video on my website about that. But I really believe that it's important we start to actually defecate in an anatomically correct position. So, you know, nobody sits on chairs to defecate except people in the West. And we have more rectal and bowel problems than anybody, more constipation than anybody. But this actually puts our body in a disadvantageous position for trying to go to the bathroom. So if you don't have a squat toilet or don't want to invest in one, I don't know, stack some books up. But get something where you can actually squat up above the toilet, or at least get your knees up higher.
Justin and I love our Squatty Potty. Start improving your digestion and elimination today by going to extremehealthradio.com/squat or see it in our store. Again, go to extremehealthradio.com/squat and watch the video to learn more.
I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
All free shows, all the time, on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
Kate's furiously typing into the chat room, isn't she?
Somebody has to ban this over
Talk
here.
about you in the third person like you're not here.
I know, right? I'm sitting right here.
How's the chat room going? Is it going good?
Chat room is awesome. I love our people in the chat. Thanks everybody for being in there so consistently. It's so much fun to make friends with everybody.
I know, it's so cool. I love the chat
room.
Do you guys have any questions about the squatty potty? I was just in our bathroom and wondering, why doesn't everyone have a squatty potty?
Right?
These things are just... They're so beneficial, and especially when you go to like a colon hydrotherapist. I don't know if a lot of listeners have been to one of those, but you go there and they have a squatty potty.
That's the first time I saw one of those, and I was like, "What the heck is this thing? These bucket like we put your feet on what? Like,
yeah, it's so weird.
I thought it was like for a little kid or like an elderly person that couldn't reach the bowl, and then I very soon found out it was directly related to your elimination.
Yeah,
they are very helpful.
Yeah, very, very helpful. So if you guys have any questions about that or the Qigong course, we love practicing Qigong. It's such a cool art. And so if you have any questions about that, please let me know. This is episode 289 with Amy Schuber. We're talking about living with intention. We're talking about life coaching, starting businesses, and just living with purpose and direction.
So inspiring.
And I think you wanted to mention something, Kate, at the outset about
when we were
coach.
talking earlier in the conversation, Amy, I thought, I'm so blessed, even though some people don't know what to do with my progression and who I'm becoming and what I'm trying to add to the world, which I believe I am being used in a great way. But some people don't get that. But I still feel like I have just enough of a group of family and friends around me that do support me. So I feel very okay in my journey. But there's still times when I go, gosh, I want somebody just for me, like somebody, you know, who can coach me and be there for me and all this stuff. And I'm thinking about a lot of people don't have anyone backing them, and they have these big things in life going on. I know you said that when you were making a lot of changes in your life, you sat on the curb crying with your coach that you had at the time, and that was so beneficial for you. So maybe people out there or in the chat room listening, or for me myself, like how would you define a coach, and why would they be so good for us at those times in our lives?
You know, when you look around at people doing big things in the world, there's lots of coaches, right? And it's just known. There's sports coaches, there's business coaches, there's guidance counselors in school.
Teachers.
And then we're teachers. Yeah. There's like a lot of mentor type people. But sometimes we go out in the world and we're just kind of let loose. And then you're just, what if you don't have access to someone who's a mentor? A coach is someone, for me, a coach is someone who holds a sacred space for you, no matter what it is you're up to. And a coach can give you perspective on things you don't see. When you're in the frame, you don't see the picture. Mm-hmm. And we're all in our own frames, and we sometimes don't see our bigger picture. Also, as an accountability, you know, sometimes you need that accountability. Who are you accountable to if you have no one holding you accountable? You know, you might ask your friends, you might do like, you know, a workout with friends and they're your buddy and you meet, you know, a couple of times a week, and that's your accountability. It makes you do it, right? A coach does that for you, gives you that accountability, and it gives you just that place to have that discovery for yourself, whatever it is you're working on. Mm-hmm. And are there lots of action items and inspired things that happen with that? Yeah, it's not all, you know, tears crying on a curb kind of thing. It's really about someone who can listen and hold that space for what you really desire. And if you don't know and you're that confused, you get there with that person. Mm-hmm. And it's about setting goals and setting intentions and then living into those intentions and creating inspired action around those intentions and moving into it, you know. And sometimes it's that, hey, I got a phone call and it was about this idea from this person, but I don't know how that would work. You know, you call your coach and, you know, does this mean something? Yeah, it might. What's your yes to this? You know, it's just getting you some space to have that defining around what you're up to in the world and what you're developing. And then there's a lot of resources that go with it. A coach provides resources.
So it's probably really important to pick a coach that you gel with.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure there are people that probably aren't great coaches. So how can you kind of distinguish between, is it just who you feel like you have a connection with? And is it also important to do in person, do you think, versus like a phone?
I think it can be anything, really. You can do on the phone, in person. A lot of coaching is done over the phone these days because you might be attracted to a coach who's in New York. Mm-hmm. How are you going to be in front of that person? They don't take, unless you fly there, they're not going to come to you. Yeah. But I mean, it's just as effective on the phone as it is in person. And so much can get done in a coaching session and the accountability. So to answer your question, yeah, there's somebody for everybody. There's tons of coaches out there, and you just have to listen to your intuition about if you're drawn to them, what they're about, what they can help you with. Some people have different kind of modalities and training that might be better suited for you. And sometimes it's just a yes. I mean, one of the first coaches I worked with, I heard about her somewhere. I talked to her, and I was an instant yes. And then another coach I worked with, the same thing. I think he was a speaker in a training I was in. And then when I was looking for a coach later, I thought of him, and it was an instant yes. So like for me, I'm always like an instant yes. I have no hesitation. Mm-hmm. So I would say people to trust their guts and their intuition around that.
So would someone want to have a coach for different areas of their life, or could one coach, like let's say someone has, they're maybe a little bit overweight, and so they would want a weight loss coach, but then they also want to succeed in business or something else or relationships. Would they look for a coach that would handle all those, or because it seems like it would be kind of weird to hire, a bunch of different coaches for different parts of their life.
Yeah, it's like you have a full-on team. Yeah, but you could. It depends on what you're working on. A health coach is going to have more health instruction and focus than a business coach. Those are totally different. However, both of those kind of coaches are life coaches on a level, because your life stuff comes up in them. You know what I mean? So like if you watch, I don't know, The Biggest Loser or Extreme Health Makeovers, you know, those people are doing life coaching. If you watch, you know, their transformations and the things that come up, there's some stuff that's coming up that's not just about food, not just about working out. So there's some overlap in it, but it just depends on what you're really focused on.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on, you know, if their biggest focus was losing a couple 100 pounds, they would want to perhaps focus there, and then move on maybe after that and get a more general type of person.
And even in that genre, it's like there's a trainer, and then there's maybe a wellness coach that's going to teach you how to eat and cook, you know, and then there's a lot of different things. So it depends on the area you're looking to thrive in your life, would probably define the kind of coach you'd like to have.
And a coach would ultimately be someone who is on your team and ultimately your biggest fan, wouldn't they be? Because if I look at a coach like a basketball coach or something like that, even though they're hard on the players and make them run sprints and lift weights and all this stuff, their ultimate intention is for the player to succeed because they are fans of the player. They really deep down, I mean, they won't admit it to the player because they're trying to be the person of authority, but is there some sort of idea where that translates into being a life coach? Like you become a fan of your clients kind of thing?
Well, yeah, because you want them to be their best. And so, yeah, you're going to be a fan. You're not going to be just a cheerleader for them. You're going to provide them with the resources and the backing that they need, and maybe tell them some hard stuff that in a loving way that maybe is more productive than maybe a family or friend who might tell you that they don't understand you or that's not a good idea. A coach isn't just going to be straightforward on such a level like to cut you off, where, you know, family and friends can be your biggest fans and cheerleaders, but they also might be your biggest sabotagers too, because you're maybe redefining who you are and they don't understand that, or they don't get anything about what you're doing, and that's okay. They might still be your biggest supporters and loved ones, but they might just not get it.
So is a coach someone who is there for someone? Is everything confidential with the coach?
Always,
right? Sort of like a psychologist. What you tell them never makes
stays
it out.
There.
Right?
Yeah, it stays there. Yeah, at least that's how
that is a sacred space.
It is very sacred. Because, you know, sometimes you do have a breakdown. Sometimes you are crying. Sometimes, you know, things happen, and it's just that safe space to like let it out and
you have
then
no
go
one to
through
talk
that.
To otherwise, right?
Yeah. And then that person knows, the coach knows what you're up to, so they can see the ebbs and flows of what you're going through. And if you do have maybe a breakdown in something and there's something going on, you can take that and move it to the next thing to see, is that something that self-sabotage, that you're blocking yourself from, you know, your goals and your intentions that you set in the beginning? I mean, there's just certain behavior aspects that happen as well.
It's so weird. There's things in our life that sabotage us that we can't even see, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Like these things, perhaps they're subconscious, or maybe they're, like you said, friends or family. But it's so weird. I guess it's maybe you're too close to them.
Yeah, or maybe you're just so used to it, it's just a normal conversation, and you just don't even, you're not uncomfortable by it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not until you're uncomfortable in your discomfort that you want to make changes. A lot of us are uncomfortable, but we're not willing to make changes. You know, why are people in bad relationships and they don't change it? Why are people have bad eating habits and they're uncomfortable in their bodies, but they're not willing to change it? Because they're not as uncomfortable yet, you know?
So it comes down to a point where they have to get that level of being uncomfortable. They have to have that pain or whatever it is.
For some people, yeah. I mean, are you pushed by pain or pulled by your vision? You know, Reverend Michael always says that at Agape, and it rings true. You know, some people don't make a change or don't make a move until there's some traumatic event, because that's what has to happen for them. And other people have a knowing, and they think, okay, I have this idea, I'm going to move towards this. So which way do you want to be in action? Are you going to be designing your life, or is it going to happen by default? Are we responding to things, or are we reacting to things in our lives? And it's just noticing where you are. And wherever you are, it's okay. You know, be kind and gentle wherever you are. If you're having a traumatic thing happen that has to happen for you to make the change, okay, we've all had that happen. And, or not, maybe it's, you know, something, an idea that was planted and you're going to follow through.
I wonder if it matters. Does it matter how you're motivated? Does it matter if you're pulled by your vision, or if you're, what was the other term you used?
Pushed by pain.
Yeah, pushed by pain. Does it matter?
Well, yeah, because you don't want to be pushed by pain your whole life. That's miserable.
That's true.
It's exhausting.
And that goes back to intentions. Your vision is your intention. So if you know what your vision is and you know what your intention is, you can be pulled by it. When you know it, you can follow the lead because you're not in control all the time.
That's the trick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we talk about that. We talk about a lot of people that do this anti-cancer diet and things like that, which we all do. But, I have to oftentimes make myself aware of the fact that I'm not eating this particular food, this broccoli or this vitamin B17 or something for anti-cancer. I'm doing it to be healthy.
Yeah.
And so when I focus on cancer, this is anti-cancer, cancer, even though it's anti, it's still like being pushed by pain.
Yeah.
Right? It's still that same thing. Instead of moving to something that's more in alignment with your intention, that's the big thing, because that way, if you're doing it that way, like you said, you don't have to be the one blazing the trail. It's blazed almost for you, right?
Yeah. And it's language, and it's that intentional thinking. I like to say a lot, ease and grace. I'm going to drive to San Clemente this morning with ease and grace, no matter what is in the road, sinkhole or not.
Yeah.
Ease and grace, because I have control over that, and then sometimes I don't. But when you have that intention, more of the ease happens. Surprisingly, when you think this is going to be easy, or is it going to be hard? What are you focusing on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's your intentions. Your intentions are what you focus on. What you focus on grows. So is it positive or is it negative? Is it good? Is it just noticing where in your mind and your language is what's showing up for you?
I think it's probably a good idea for some people. I think there has to be this ebb and flow of opposites, being pushed and pulled. But a lot of people do things, like I was saying before, the anti-cancer diet, and that's good for a little time, and maybe that's good to sort of have as a launching pad,
right?
Sort of kick your butt in the right direction. But then ultimately, if you're connecting with yourself and your life purpose and your life path, you realize what your intentions are, and then you start being pulled by some greater idea of who you want to become, right? Who you want to be.
Yeah.
And so I imagine a lot of your work is trying to get people into that space, trying to get people to understand what their intentions are and how they want to live.
That, and another thing that's really big is just loving where you are, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Love yourself, whether you have the job you want or the life you want or the body you want. Be where you are and be with it, and just love where you are and accepting of yourself. That's a lot of it too. I
bet that's a struggle for people.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, you don't have to go far to look around to see how we treat ourselves,
Yeah, it's funny because people in that book, You Can Heal Your Life, Louise Hay talks about all those affirmations in the mirror work and all that. And, people just, as their default setting, sort of have this negative emotion about themselves or negative thought patterns about how they look even. I think that's why she does all the stuff with the mirror work.
Yeah. And how many people do that mirror work? I mean, if you ask somebody to go look in the mirror and tell them that they love themselves, I guarantee emotions are going to come out of that if they've never done that before.
Yeah.
Or they'd be really flippant to it. Like, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't you? Do you love on yourself at all? And how we treat ourselves is how we love on ourselves, how we feed ourselves, how we nurture ourselves. And are we living by default? Are we getting in the car in the morning, getting in traffic, and traffic is awful? Or it could be like, I have a half an hour in traffic because I get to drive slow to work, so I get a half an hour of peace, and I can listen to whatever I want.
Right.
What are you creating out of that space? I mean, we do that. We create the intentions around everywhere we are, everywhere we're going, everything we're doing, who we're being in every moment is the truth of the matter, And I think waking up to that and recognizing who you are and what you really want out of life is really important.
I think it's a huge thing because we talk about this all the time, Kate, where a lot of the health problems people have are ultimately, yes, diet is a huge part in that, and McDonald's and all this factory farm meat and all this stuff. But a huge part of it is not living in alignment with your purpose, living by your default settings, having these stored and trapped emotions that are just eating away at who you are and your dreams, and
these self-sabotaging thoughts or thoughts or words that people said to you as you're a child, and all this stuff. It's sort of the default setting, and I think that's where a lot of the real health issues. That's what we're sort of going on the show, is navigating through. Yes, there's some physical things people can do with juicing and cleanses, and all that's great, but you still have to deal with what your life purpose is. If you're in alignment with your intention, I mean, those are the real things I think to talk about.
That's where all the juice is, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's where all the goodness is. I mean, one of the things that happened when I first started doing this work and moving towards what I'm doing now is I was at the women's conference Maria Shriver put on, the governor's women's conference. Well, it was the governor's conference to start, and it became the women's conference, and because Maria Shriver was the governor's wife, it became really big. But I went to it. It's been, I think, like 8 years.
They still have it?
No, not anymore.
Oh, okay.
It ran for a few years.
While she was while he was in office.
Yeah.
But one of the things she read, and it was on the back of the program, and it just struck me like a lightning bolt. And it was right at the beginning of me sort of saying yes to all this. Mm-hmm. It was this Hopi poem, and one of the lines is, "You are the one you've been waiting for." I'll send you guys the poem so you can post it or use it, but it gives me chills every time I say
cool.
it gives me chills. You are the one you've been waiting for. And that line shows up for me in the most divine ways that it just speaks to me all the time.
You sort of see it.
I see it, and I know, like, I'm the one I've been waiting for. I've been looking outside myself for all the answers. I'm a seeker. I like to, seek and read and follow and do things, but I have to do something with that information.
Yeah.
I can seek it, but I've got to also apply it and be in that inspired action. And I say that to everyone listening. It's like, you are the one you've been waiting for. Only you know. Your family doesn't know. Your teachers don't know. Your coworkers don't know. You are the one. Only you know. No one can tell you. Uh-huh. You have the answers.
And that's one of the biggest problems, is that in our culture, we're so tied, or we're so taught that we need to seek authority figures. We need to trust doctors. We need to trust all these people. And I think that's part of the reason why people have such a hard time looking and sort of quieting all the other voices. Mm-hmm. And looking at themselves like that.
Well,
right?
imagine being that plus a people pleaser like most people are. Then you're really kind of in a hot water.
Then you have more work to do, don't you?
Yeah. And if you don't want to make any changes, and you want, like what's happening with you, Kate, people don't want you to change. They like who you are, that's nice, but it's, you have something bigger to do.
But I know where I'm going, like you said. I know that.
Right.
I am the one I've been waiting for. I mean, that's a really great way to put that. And I see that potential, and I see the desires that spark me, and it's like, there's no going back.
Yeah. And for me as a coach, it's like to coach people back to themselves. Mm-hmm. You are the leader of your own life. You are CEO of your body temple. Nobody is forcing anything upon you. You make those big decisions. Only you know what is stirred up inside of you. And to help guide people back to that is what I love to do, and what all coaches should, see and love to do. Ultimately, no one's holding any answers for you. You have the answers.
Have you ever read that book by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting in that book where he talks about how we're all lying to ourselves, and we're all putting on a mask, and so I put on some sort of version of myself to you and to Kate, and then to someone else I give another version of myself.
Right.
But ultimately, no one really knows the real me except for me. And everyone's interacting, and so they're doing the same thing. So we're secondary characters, like he says in the book, of their play, of their movie, and we're just not in tune with who we are, because I think we spend so much of our time acting out some role that someone else has, or they think they are, of us.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Being our authentic self is like the point. It's the whole point, to be yourself, to be your best version of yourself. I think when we talk about purpose, I think our purpose here is to be the best version of ourself, and how you define that can go off on a lot of different levels, but you've got to be the best version of you and be authentically you. Mm-hmm. And only you know what that means.
Only each person knows, right?
Yeah, it sounds very simple, but it's very powerful, and it's not easy.
Have you read or heard of that book, Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani?
I've heard of it, but not read it.
I haven't read it either, but I've heard her talk a lot. And for those that don't know, she had a near-death experience. I think she had stage 4 cancer, and she was given less than the night to live. It was
Whoa.
that bad. Tumors all over her body.
I think she was actually pronounced dead.
She was. I think she was pronounced dead, and she had this incredible experience. And she wrote a book, and it's just all about that. She eventually came back into her body, and was told that she needed to be a truer expression of who she was, and to not hide behind all these masks and things. And I just find that to be fascinating, because that's really what a lot of us are doing.
Yeah,
is we're hiding behind this character we play.
Yeah,
Weird.
and the thing is, I want to say is it's nobody's fault. Like, we don't even know we're doing it. We don't know that we're trained that way. We're born into this world. We go to school. We follow society roles. We do these things. We become, these little soldiers in the world, and we don't even know that that's happened to us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're taught not to be our best expression of ourselves, and some people are taught that they can do whatever they want in the world and paint on the walls and be an artist or whatever it is. So there's a little bit of everything going on out there. But for anyone who maybe feels bad about it, don't feel bad, because we're all in the same boat. We're all here on this earth at the same time, kind of living in the same way and waking up now because things are changing. Consciousness is changing.
People are changing fast.
Fast, yeah, because the old ways are not working anymore.
Yeah, and too, a lot of people too may come up with resistance from people, family members and things, or friends who just like to make fun of this type of stuff, because it's like it's sort of, I think, with the Saturday Night Live stuff, there's all kinds of real funny skits about stuff like this, and so I just think that people make fun of this idea, but really, if you're called to it and if it resonates with you, maybe it's just something that you share with your life coach or something, and you work with someone like that.
Yeah.
Because none of your family or friends are going to understand anyway. You know what I mean?
True.
They just write you off as some sort of quack or something.
Yeah, or some sort of Kool-Aid drinker.
I know, right?
Yeah. Which you're okay with. Yeah, I love the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it's amazing. Do you have any books what are some books that you would recommend that have changed your life? Do you have any books?
Well, you've mentioned it a bunch today. You Can Heal Your Life is one of my favorite books. A book that I love, Florence Scovel Shinn. Do you guys read anything of hers?
No.
The Game of Life and How to Play It. Florence Scovel Shinn.
Okay.
That's a great book. And it's actually anything by her. If you can get that book, or if you can get books that are in a whole bunch of her books, that one's really great. It's just about tuning in and surrendering, really, and letting the universe take over. We think, our ego thinks, or the personas or the masks that we wear thinks it knows what's up, but it doesn't really know. It's just trying to keep us safe in the world that we've created for ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes that safe world is really uncomfortable. Really, really uncomfortable.
The safe world is?
The safe world is. Yeah. That your ego is comfortable with. Like, my ego was really comfortable getting up and going to a job that was really soul crushing.
Yeah.
But it was consistent and,
good money.
Good money. And it seemed like I was doing something good, and I was good at it, because I can be good at anything, like I'm a good worker.
Yeah.
That's like in my horoscope. It's like in my DNA, like hire a Libra,
Yeah.
but I was miserable, so, letting go and letting the universe take over a bit and following your intuition is great. So that's a great book. You ask that question and my mind goes blank.
Yeah.
Isn't that how it is?
No, it's, so what other life areas are good for life coaches? Like any struggles? Would someone want to get a life coach even if they're just sort of, everything's kind of going along hunky-dory, they like their life and they like their work and they're making okay money, they're satisfied with their life? Would that still be?
I mean, I think anyone can use a coach. It doesn't have to be about struggle. It doesn't have to be about something painful. I mean, if you have transformation or transition going on in your life, that's a great time for coaching, to have a perspective. If you're just drawn to it, if you just want perspective, this is what I'm up to. This is what I think is good, but maybe I need a new perspective. I mean, it can happen at any time in your life. I think always having a partner in your life, like a coaching partner, is genius. It's a brilliant thing to have. Because once you have one, the point is not to always have that right arm coach that you're dependent on. The point is to get to a place where you maybe don't need it anymore, and you can kind of touch into it and have laser coaching sessions once in a while if you need be.
So it wouldn't be something that someone would have. Maybe, I guess some people would want that their whole life, but if they wanted that every now and then, if they got to a level where they're feeling comfortable, then they could just do repeat sessions.
Yeah, or if there's a project you want to put into it, like a personal life project you're working on. But I think at any time, for any reason, coaching is great.
So how does it work? Do people traditionally, do they contact you and they just work with you per session, or how does that work?
It's usually on a monthly basis, so there's a commitment. For me personally, I do a 3-month commitment because you've got to have that intention to have the commitment, so things can happen within that time frame. Nothing's going to happen in one session. It's kind of like your first session's about what are you up to, what are your intentions, what are your goals. Okay, then like inspired action is the rest of the time, and then stuff comes up in between. So the relationship will be like a long-term relationship, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then it goes from there. You can pop in for sessions after that, but usually there's a relationship that has to be built within that for things to happen.
I'd imagine you need time for things to happen, and
it's like going to the gym. You're not just going to show up once and expect to have,
darn, you're not abs of steel.
Abs of steel.
Darn it.
Yeah.
6-pack abs.
Yeah, and you're also doing, if you're learning. If this is new and you're learning your intentions, you got to put some stuff into work, some practices into place.
What do you do with people? Do you give different practices to different people? Is that?
Yeah, depends.
Do you have a set of like a sort of a standard, like there's 15 things, and then to one person you might give 3 or 4 of those things and then add all of them in, or how does it work?
It depends on where people are at, and it depends on what they're up to, and it depends on what they're available for. Some people aren't available for a lot of disciplines at first, and there's maybe more learning that's happening. It's more conversational. Some people are really up to something big and they need activities to put into place. So like if it's a more of an entrepreneurial business coaching, there's a lot of literal things that go with that in planning stages of it. But it's unique to everybody.
Wow.
Because we're all unique.
Yeah, we're all unique.
I guess there's no blueprint at all.
Do you ever get people that say, I don't want to do that?
They might not say no, but they might not do it.
Like, let's say you tell someone to do meditation and they're, overtly opposed to that or something for religious reasons. Or I don't know, I'm just trying to think of something where would they say to you, I don't want to do that, but I'll do something else?
They might not say no. They might say they'll try it, and then the results are they didn't try it.
The results are that they did not?
They did not try it. Okay. Or they might say like, I don't have time for that. And so I'll just say, well, try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then that starts another conversation. So like, in the next week, if there was something that was given and nothing happened, there was no inspired action around maybe the coursework I gave or something, there's something about that. Like, okay, well, what's your resistance? What's your resistance to meditation? Or what's your resistance to doing the work? Because you've got to do the work. It's practice. Life is practice. You've got to show up and practice. You can't say you're not meeting your goals if you haven't set any goals. You can't say you're not living into your intentions or it's not working if you don't have any. But stuff comes up, your personal stuff comes up, your blocks come up, your subconscious mind gets involved, whether it's a priority,
Wow.
Just like anything, if you say you're going to watch what you eat and then you don't, or you say you're going to run a marathon and you never train.
Yeah, for me, it's funny because I see people do the yo-yo dieting thing, and we're talking about this before the show started. This whole show, Extreme Health Radio, and same with your work, you were saying, it's just basically a stepping stone to living your true potential, living your true life that you're supposed to live. And food is a great way to do that because it's 3 times a day. What greater practice is there than 3 times a day that's forced? Because you can't just skip it. I mean, you can, but you start getting weird. You start getting, all kinds of blood sugar issues with people. But, and so having a practice that you do every day, I think is really, really important. And it's something that, that, like you said, life is a practice, and people have to show up, and people have to do certain things with intention, with the desire to create a better life for themselves. And I think it's like that whole thing that we've talked about before. How if you were to
set out to sail, and two boats are next to each other on the shore, and one of them is just 1 degree off. But then after, a certain amount of time, after a couple hours, they're still right next to each other. But then after a course of a few months, one's in China and one's in Australia.
Yeah.
And so it's that whole idea of staying disciplined, right? And doing something for 3 months causes that separation of a different life, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you're showing up in your intention, and it's course correction. Of course, no one's perfect, It's course correction along the way. So you stay in that 1 degree, It's like you might say you want to lose 20 pounds, and you might start eating the right way, and then losing the sugar, and then you might find another thing to take out of your diet, and then you might find another thing, and it's just it's kind of the exploration. Coaching is like that too, because you never know what's going to come up for you. I mean, I have a coach. I never know what's going to come up for me too. Yeah. Like I bump up against my stuff, I have new projects, and then I think bigger, and bigger things happen, and then I bump up against something I didn't know was there, you know, and that happens for everybody. You unveil something new, and then, there's something to bump into. So we all have a coach. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Wow. So, yeah.
You must love your work.
I do. It
sounds like it does.
I love people. And I love people. The best part of my job is when, I don't even like to call it a job, but the best part of it is when someone sets out to do something and they accomplish that, and they see, and they just have that happy and joy. I can hear it in their voice, and they've accomplished something, but it's because of themselves. It's not because of anything I've done. It's because of everything they've done.
Yeah.
And they've just gone into the flow. It's that surrender, and it's like, oh my gosh, look how great this is. And you tap into it. And once you've tapped into that for yourself, there's no going back. Wow. Once you've tapped into that awareness of how much joy can be out of who we are in life through what we're doing and how we're being, whether it's with your family or with your kids, in your job or in a new adventure. It's just so fun to see that.
Super fulfilling, huh?
Yeah.
So besides having a coach, which is awesome that you do, what other things keep you going throughout do you have your own practices every day that you do?
I do. When I wake up, I set intentions in my mind before I even get out of bed. So I wake up and I'm aware that I'm awake, and I'll just start, and sometimes they're just unconscious, knowing what I'm doing that day. I'll run through some intentions, and I'm not kidding. Sometimes I'm like, okay, great parking, and I might think of it once because I know I'm going somewhere.
Like in the morning, you mean?
Like in the morning, when I'm still in bed, I'll be like, I'm going to get a great parking place on the street at wherever I'm headed to. If I know that I'm headed somewhere, and then I set my intentions, and then I usually make some tea, and I go outside and I do my meditation outside in nature. Nature's a big part of me, so I like to connect and do my meditation outside.
Do you do it for a set amount of time, or do you kind of just flow?
It's usually about within a half an hour time. Okay. Sometimes
so like first thing in the morning, kind of.
Yeah, first thing. It's awesome.
Before the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, I set my intentions. I get my tea.
When you do meditation, do you visualize? Do you say affirmations? Do you just be quiet? There's a lot of different things people do.
I do a couple of different things. For me, it's really just getting to that quiet space.
Okay.
Since I've already set my intentions, I kind of let my mind control go off of that, so I don't have to think about it.
Okay.
But that's just a trick I play on myself because I am really in my head.
Yeah.
So
we all are. Huh?
Yeah. So then I usually do a quiet meditation. I don't use anything. I just sit outside, and then I sort of let it flow from there. It depends on what's going on in my mind, you know. But I have affirmations that I like to say. I have a stack of note cards that I pull on throughout the day that give me back into my intentions. So they're written down, next to me. They're in my bag now because you never know when you're in traffic and need to pull them out and read them.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I do that, and then I just sort of move in nature a bit. I have a garden, so right now I'm gardening and watering and doing that. And when I'm doing that in the morning, a lot of stuff comes to me, and then I get on with my day.
So what do you do when something happens and you act out of this lower vibrational state? Like, let's say you're in traffic and someone cuts you off or something like that. Whatever those are, I mean, each of us have our different things. When something like that happens, what do you, let's say you just sort of explode for a second. Yeah. And then what do? You realize, oh shoot, I just did that. And then what do you do?
Okay, well, so I'm a practicer too, so I'm always in practice. No, there's no perfection coming out of me. We're all human. And I can be on the road and get frustrated, you know? So I think if there's something I explode, I just say, I just kind of catch myself. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to love that part of me that felt raging in the moment. Okay. I don't.
So you allow it.
I allow it because there's a part of me that like might snap,
Yeah.
I might be... Yeah, maybe if I snap,
like a shadow
I snap.
self or something.
Yeah. So if you do, you just, okay, that happened, and I'm going to love that happened, and I'm not going to hold on to it.
And then it's easier to let go, right?
It's easier to let go. Yeah, and move forward. But it's noticing that you're doing it. Your awareness is a huge key to all of this.
Yeah, so you don't
awareness.
Continue down that weird path that you just created for yourself.
Right.
So knowing that.
Yeah. So like, and talking about it, like I was with my dad not too long ago, and he can be like, there's no parking over there, and and I was just like, oh no, Dad, today's ease and grace. We're going to find parking wherever we go. Okay. And then he pulled in the wrong driveway, and I'm like, oh, Dad, it's ease and grace. And he was like, oh, that's right. And as the day went on, he went to say something later. He goes, oh no, we're not talking like that. We're talking positive today. And by 2 hours later, I had an influence on him.
That's so cool.
So I was like, oh, but that's like our own self too. If you notice, oh, I'm being, in whatever situation, just be with it. Chill out.
I like
and
that.
Draw, be nice to yourself in the midst of it.
Kind and gentle, right?
Gentle, yeah. I saw your email about that, right?
Yeah, it's
being gentle.
Yeah, it's something that I think that in those situations, if you don't do that, the problem that you have is, or the challenge you have is that once that happens, you start beating yourself up. So if you don't love that part of you that only comes up, a few times a month, it's just really rageful or something. If you don't love it, then you're going to beat yourself up over that, and then you're going to be upset, and then that's going to start this other direction of weird.
Yeah, it just grows.
Yeah.
So, but if you stop it with the love, it takes it in another direction.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a dish towel I saw walking through Nordstrom one time, and it said, "You're crazy, showing. You might want to tuck that back in." But there was something even in me, and it made me laugh, of course. But there was something in me that thought, "Wow, if we just went tucking our crazy back in, or our ugly, something gets stuffed way deep down. It's not like last night you and I were watching a documentary, and they did talk a lot about the shadow self and these things that are these true ugly sides to us, and we do have them because we're human. And if they're not dealt with properly or allowed to be expressed in a healthy way, out of a loving way, then you're really going to cause yourself some harm, whether physical or mental, and it's going to keep popping up until it's properly dealt with, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I think there's a time, and I think that's why people on this spiritual and emotional and physical journey, I think we have a harder time at letting ourselves kind of go to those places. We want to tuck it back in, because we don't want to be seen as those people having a human moment.
Yeah.
You want to see Deepak Chopra cut you off on the freeway and flip you off, It's like, wait a minute, what happened? Well, who is this guy?
But it's in the moment of showing that is your vulnerability, right? And this conversation about vulnerability, does anyone really want to be out there vulnerable? I'm going to say no, personally. No, I don't want to show it all to everybody and show I'm scared or let I was sitting on a curb crying about something. No. You think I went into that office that day crying? No, I pulled it up and went to work. It's like, but we all have it, and there's that vulnerability in sharing it. And if you show a piece of you and then you're like, oh, whoops, I'm gonna be nice to myself and just be okay with it right now. But you can see a pattern when you start having the awareness around it. You can see the pattern in your life.
So the first step is sort of having that awareness, recognizing that you're acting in a certain way, and then loving that, and then taking a deep breath, letting that go. And so with a life coach, it's kind of cool because you can essentially almost have them as, like you said, a sacred space. A life coach could be someone that you sort of reveal more of yourself to than anybody else. And so they get to see all, or probably not still all, because I'm sure some people don't say everything, but at least you can reveal more of yourself to someone like a life coach.
Yeah. And what happens is when you're up to big things in the world, the resistance comes up big too.
Yeah.
You guys might recognize as you start growing this show, as bigger people come on, you might find yourselves resistant, right? But you might not recognize it.
How do you mean we would find us resistant?
Well, maybe you're not going to move just into it with ease. You like have reasons not to do something.
Okay.
Or, you know, it's hard to say, but you'll find yourself like sometimes our resistance gets bigger in the growth because we might have doubts, and it might be unconscious. It might be fear. You know, our resistance can be fear. Like, well, what if I do that? Because it's easier for me to think it's not going to happen and it's not possible than it is to think it's possible. And so sometimes we play in that like lower vibration of this isn't going to happen. Yeah. You know, and that's resistance. You know,
because most of the time I think, most of the time we think that the resistance is something that's happening to us. It's the outside world.
Yeah.
But I liked how you just said that sometimes the resistance, the biggest resistance, the bigger things get is us ourselves, like self-sabotaging or being fearful of moving into that space. So maybe it's a combination keeping us in that space of moving forward.
Yeah. And it's behavior, you know, like if someone asks you to do something, like for instance, you guys asking me to be here with you. If I was resistant to it and maybe playing a smaller game, I would have been like, no, maybe another time, or maybe let's schedule it later so I can think about it, or whatever my stuff is.
Right.
But because I'm not in a resistant place in any of this, you know, playing this game, I'm a yes. You know, and I knew my schedule opened up in such a way, and I was like, "Oh, that's why it opened."
And you were a capital YES when you sent it back. I was like, "Wow, that's a resounding yes!" Like,
so cool.
That was very powerful.
Yeah. So you just notice, and you know, with a coach at hand and going through it with you, they can give you a different perspective and recognize things for you you maybe don't recognize for yourself in a positive way too.
So would a coach give advice, or was it just sort of resources and tools and perspective?
Resources, tools, and perspective.
Okay. So,
yeah, guidance.
Yeah, because it would be kind of strange, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Would it be weird to give advice? I guess it would be.
Yeah, and you're not really asking for advice, you know? You're asking for guidance and to share the path with you and perspective.
Yeah.
And reflection, really. A lot of it is reflection.
I mean,
you know?
A lot of we had resistance to, I knew that getting another microphone in our studio here was something we wanted to do. And it's so easy. I mean, you know how easy it is to do an interview, and the person's in New York, and then you get to kind of continue with your day. And so, but I know that we won't get the sort of quality and camaraderie and connection unless we have interviews with people in person. And we're going to try to do more of that. And sure, it changes your day a little bit. You have to do different things, but that was our level of resistance to doing what we're doing now. But I think the end result is something huge and something big. And so I know a lot of people are going to listen to this and they're going to love it. And it's going to be a camaraderie that wouldn't have happened had we done it over the phone.
Yeah.
And so it takes a little bit of being uncomfortable and getting used to a different way of doing things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For people.
It's the unknown that makes you shy or fear. You know, the fear of the unknown is kind of a big block. You know, who knows, the unknown, it could be totally positive unknown, but because you don't know that, there's like that procrastination or tension, resistance or space that you give to yourselves. So it's just how often and where do you do that in your life?
Yeah.
You know,
is your family, are they supportive? Because they're like you were saying before, they're more of the mindset that you should go get a job, or you should back then, before you're doing what you're doing now. Are they supportive? I think you said
so supportive.
That's
amazing. Cool. I have amazing family. Do they always get me? No, not always. But do they love and embrace me? Yeah, always.
That's cool.
And supportive, absolutely. And I think the job thing, like the JOB thing, is just about security. They want you to be taken care of. They want you to be okay. They want you to be. And I know that comes from, my dad's an entrepreneur, and so security was not there. I mean, it was, but wasn't, because you're your own. You know, you guys know, it's like you're doing it all yourself on some level. And so I think from his experience and his family's experience, he just was like, go get a job because that's better, you know, which was interesting, because as I started getting into the entrepreneurial world, I'm like, but wait a minute, Dad, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you're that.
It's so weird.
Yeah, why don't you encourage me the same way?
Yeah, but it was just the flip. He wanted security, you know?
So essentially, if you were to make enough money to where you're completely secure for the rest of your life, it's not really what you're doing, it's just that he wants you to be secure.
Yeah. I think it was just the idea. The idea,
Yeah.
So are you still, if people listening to this even want to work with you personally, Do you still work with people over the phone?
I do.
You accept new?
I have
new peeps?
Yeah, I work with new peeps. So,
cool.
yeah. So anybody who's listening that wants to get in touch, feel free. I do have on my website, if you join my website, if you subscribe, you can get my PDF about 7 ways to live a life you love, which is a really great thing to just read through and start the process. But if anyone's interested, feel free to connect with me and let me know.
That is great. And do you also, do you work with men as well as women, or do you think it's important to have a coach in your life of the same sex? Do you think that's better?
That's a good question. You know what? I've worked with both. I've had women coaches and men coaches, and I work with both men and women. I generally tend to have more of women in my practice, but I do work with both.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
Is that because women are more in touch with their emotions, and men are stuffing everything, aren't they? You know?
I think we all have the same stuff. We just do things differently.
But why are men so opposed to this kind of stuff? You know, it's weird. Maybe. I
think you need to answer that
question. That's a topic for another show, isn't it?
I'm going to turn the question on you.
I don't know what it is. I really don't know. It's strange. It's
I know guys that have coaches.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so I think it just depends. Women are more, I started working with women because in an entrepreneurial world, women do business differently than men. And so that mentality is really different. And it's actually changing to a more way that women are doing business is kind of the way the consciousness is changing.
It is, yeah.
And so we're not so literal and things aren't so, lateral. And that's my connection with women just was from the beginning. And then it helped me too because I understood it because through some classes I was taking, I was like, oh, okay, I get that. And so the conversation when you're in groups of women is just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Do men get it? Yeah, absolutely. But when we're just thinking and doing and being, we go out and do things differently.
Yeah.
And you experience it in the world too, in just regular daily conversation.
Yeah.
Like a first question out of a family friend's mouth was, where's your business plan and your money and all this? And I looked at him and I was like, oh my gosh, you're a textbook for what I'm going through and learning right now about this. And women are more, I love that idea. Let me share it with my friends. Let's nurture it. The put it down on paper isn't our first go-to.
Yeah. And that's been pushed on everybody.
Amber Marie, our friend in the chat room, she's so funny. She said she read an article that women deepen things and men move things forward.
Yeah. Men are more actionable. Like, let's do it. Let's go. Let's move. And women need to sort of sit with it and nurture it. But on the negative side of that, you don't want to nurture it too long and never launch it. You want to, put it out there.
Throw it, kick it out of the nest.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true at some point, though.
Yeah. But sometimes it happens for you because your business takes off because you have such a good idea and women want it and they support it and there you're off and running.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So it looks like on your website you offer lots of different types of coaching. If people click on Work with Amy, would that be the place to?
Yeah, absolutely.
To go?
Kind of give you a taste of the things I do. And you can always send me an email and let me know what you're interested in and what you're up to, and we can figure something out.
Do you do it primarily through phone if they're not in the area and Skype, or does it matter?
It's phone and Skype mostly. Okay. If you're local, it can be, face to face.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a little flexible there, but it's mostly the majority of my coaching, and I have coaching clients all over the country.
I love that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I can tell. You really seem to be living in your purpose, I would say.
So if you go on to amyschuber.com, you can get your phone number as well as your email address, and then they can follow you on Facebook and sign up to your newsletter, and that would be a good way to contact.
Yeah, that would be a great way to be in touch.
Okay. Gosh, good stuff.
This is fun.
This has been so fun. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Thanks
yeah,
for
you're
being
so
on.
welcome. Yeah, so much fun.
And we'll put a link up to her podcast as well when it goes live.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get that live later today. Episode, what is this, 289?
289.
289. So if you guys have any questions or if you guys want to share this show, we would really appreciate that. If you want to share it on Facebook as soon as we publish the show, it'll be extremehealthradio.com/289. And if you guys would like to support us, you can always do that through Amazon, or we accept donations too, because all of our shows are free, 289 shows so far. Everything's free for you guys, and you can download it, send it to your friends, all that good stuff. So we really appreciate all of your support and everybody in the chat room. It looks like there's a bunch of people in there.
And there's some thanks to Amy from the chat room. So
what's that?
Thank you.
There's some thanks to Amy in the chat room.
Oh, cool.
So
gosh, so cool.
You are loved.
Awesome. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey everybody, this is Josie, Justin's mum. Don't tell him, but I know he would absolutely be really happy if you would sign up to his free weekly newsletter. And don't forget to share this with all your friends. This is the buzzing bumblebee signing off.
Is that really possible? How cute is that?
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind.